Thanks everybody for joining our webinar today. This is our VMware Skyline webinar, and we're going to talk to you today about how to learn to radically transform your support experience in just 30 minutes. So we have 3 people on the call today helping out with the webinar. So myself, Michelle Clopton. I'm Senior Platform Marketing Manager in our Global Services Organization, and we have 2 of my colleagues, Pashmin Mistry. He is our Senior Product Line Manager for Skyline, and Nick Fritsch, who's a Technical Marketing Manager in our Global Services Org. And so myself and Pashmin will be presenting to you today and answering questions. Nick will also be helping answer your questions. So I would just encourage everybody to mute your lines for now. If you have a question, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of the webinar. You can put your question in there, or you can wait until the end and we'll have a dedicated Q&A session at the end, and we can answer your questions then too. So here's what we'll be talking to you about today. We're going to give you an overview of VMware Skyline. We're going to talk to you about the Skyline Operational Summary Report, which is a key deliverable of the Skyline service. Talk a little bit about privacy and security. Talk about how you get started with Skyline. We'll do some summary conclusion information, and then we'll have our Q&A session. So let's get started. So what is VMware Skyline? Skyline is part of our initiative at VMware to transform customer support. We want to reinvent the support experience and make it better for our customers and make it seamless and effortless. So Skyline is our proactive support offering to help advance this initiative. So what does Skyline do? So it helps you avoid issues in your environment. So it can proactively identify potential issues based on your environment, can help you resolve issues actually before they occur. So that improves your environment reliability and stability. It can also help you resolve issues. So by using your environment-specific data-driven analytics, we can help solve any issues that do come up more quickly. We provide personalized recommendations and findings and resolutions that are specific to your VMware environment. And Skyline does all of this at no additional cost. So Skyline is included with your current production support or Premier Services support subscription. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Skyline works. So basically, if you have an active support subscription, you can download and start using Skyline. So what you would do is you download a very lightweight appliance. It's called the Skyline Collector. It's a virtual appliance in your environment. Right now, the collector supports VMware vSphere and NSX, and we are quickly adding support for additional products in our portfolio. And that collector looks at data in your environment. It captures environment patterns, events, and trends. And so we have a number of diagnostics and scoping tools that we use to analyze the data that the collector is looking at in your environment. And then we look at known issue detection across the products for pattern identification. We compare data against our very large library of knowledge, our KBs, our docs, best practices, VVD, and we provide the proactive findings and recommendations, and you get those within something we call an operational summary report. And Pashmin is going to talk a little bit more about that report here shortly. Another customer that we have is Match.com, and they are an online dating company, very large in many countries across the world. They've also been using Skyline for a few months, and it helped them identify some versioning inconsistencies in their production clusters that they were unaware of. And so this kickstarted their team to develop a remediation plan that they're executing to fix those issues before they cause any problems. So they are using Skyline for proactive remediation of their production infrastructure. So hopefully a lot of you are coming to VMworld in the US. It's coming up at the end of August, and that's our US-based customer conference. It's huge, and there's a lot of stuff going on there that's pretty exciting. We have a lot of opportunities for you to take a look at Skyline at the conference and talk to our team about Skyline. So we actually have 2 breakout sessions listed there that Skyline will be highlighted in. We've got some Meet the Expert sessions. You can talk to our technical experts about Skyline. You can try out Skyline. You can take a look at it in a couple of hands-on labs that we have going on. And if you're a VMware customer with a TAM, so a technical account manager, you're familiar with TAMs. We have a lot of information to help your TAM learn more about Skyline and get up to speed as well. We'll also have a demo of Skyline in the VMware booth in the Solutions Exchange, so you can come up and take a look at it. We'll have a listening post station in the VM Village, as well as a Skyline Inner Circle discussion. So live discussion in the VM Village on Thursday of the conference, Thursday morning. We're working with our VMware user group team to have some meet and greet Skyline sessions in their VMUG member lounge. And if you'd like to talk with some of our Skyline experts one-on-one at the conference in a one-on-one meeting, you can schedule those through your VMware account team. We're also going to be making some exciting announcements around Skyline at VMworld, so stay tuned for those coming up. So I'm going to turn it over at this point to Pashmin, and he's going to give you a little bit more information about Skyline.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. There definitely is a lot of excitement and activities at VMworld, so really looking forward to that. And hi, everyone. As Michelle introduced, I'm the Senior Product Line Manager for Skyline. I recently joined the team here and super excited to be here. When I first started, I started talking to a lot of customers and just did a bunch of interviews to really understand the value that Skyline is offering and providing. And the feedback was amazing. It resonated extremely well with what vision we have in mind. And I'm super excited to really take in a lot more feedback from you guys once you start deploying Skyline in your environment and start using and leveraging the capabilities that it offers. So I think Michelle captured the value proposition really well. It's all about empowering you guys, empowering our customers to be able to best optimize the network, the deployment, the environment that they have. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish with Skyline. One of the deliverables as part of the Skyline deployment is what we call as an operational summary report. So this is basically a detailed document that really captures all the proactive findings that we found within your environment, and what are some of the recommendations, what is the rationale behind those recommendations, and what steps you need to take specifically to remediate these findings and avoid issues down the road. So that really is what this document captures. There are 3 different sections to this document. But again, the recommendations are from VMware's library of knowledge-based articles. And then we also look at best practices to basically make sure that your environment is running up against those best practices and recommendations that we have. So if you look at the next slide, the operational summary report will be broken up in 3 sections. The first section is a very high-level deployment summary. So this is basically where we display and capture all the details about your inventory, right? What vCenter version of products you have, what are the different components within those vCenter servers, which NSX manager you're running, what version it is, what are the different components to that, so on and so forth, right? So it really gives you a high-level deployment summary of your environment in one view. The second section is the high-level recommendation summary, right? What are some of the critical issues that we found in the environment? What are some that are not so critical, and what are some of them which are trivial, right? So we just give you a high-level summary breakdown based on severity, based on things that we found in the environment. And then the third one is a more detailed report or a detailed section which will highlight the rules that were matched up against the environment that you have, the endpoints and objects that Skyline is monitoring, how many of those were found across which objects and which endpoints, and what was the description of the issue that we found within that object or endpoint that Skyline's monitoring, along with the recommendation and the link to the KB article so that you can take a look at it for more detailed information. So this is basically how we kind of highlight and show you what are some of the findings, which endpoints and objects they're impacted, and what are the steps, remediation steps that we recommend in order to resolve these findings. And the next slide really talks about data privacy and security. So again, we at VMware take privacy and security extremely, extremely seriously. We want to make sure that we are not violating any of the policies that have been defined either by the government or by your organization itself. So we did a thorough review of what kind of data we want to collect and really make sure that none of it violates these policies. But Skyline, again, at a high level, captures two types of product details, right? One is the configuration data, and the other is the telemetry and performance data. So those are the two categories of data that we capture when we deploy Skyline Collector. And the idea behind this is really from a configuration data perspective to capture things like the version information, the product configuration setting, and anything that is technical relating to the devices that's accessing those products and services. From a performance data perspective, it's about metrics of the performance and scale of VMware products and services that you use, right? So response times for user interfaces and details, API calls, so on and so forth. Again, none of this is, none of the information that we collect is confidential to your organization, right? So the workloads, the content, the applications running on top of these ESXi hosts, right? None of that information is collected as part of Skyline. We also make sure we would not collect any of your access control lists, distributed firewall rules, right? Any other low-level details that are found within the VMware product logs are also not collected as part of Skyline. Once Skyline collects this information, it will securely transmit over an encrypted channel, which is again encrypted via TLS 1.2 back to VMware, and then VMware will have its own engine within the walls of VMware, which is extremely secure. It will run up against the engine that we have where we defined all the rules, and based on the matches, we will create and generate the operational summary report, which again is generated once every 2 weeks. So as soon as you register the collector, we will start collecting the information, and then in about 2 weeks' time, we will generate the first operational summary report for you guys. So I hope that covered most of the aspects around privacy and security and most of the questions that you might have. We have a very detailed FAQ, which Nick, if you're still on the call and if you would like to put that up in the chat below, that would be super awesome for everybody. Moving on to the next slide here, just a little bit more detail around the installation and configuration process. So again, Skyline Collector is an OVA file, that is a software. So you can basically easily deploy it through vCenter Server. You can then go ahead and, as you go through the installation process, you will have to accept a privacy agreement, which really gives us the ability to, or gives us the approval to go ahead and collect the technical information that I talked about. Once you do that, you register using your My VMware account. So this is basically how Skyline connects to your account and your organization, so that we can give you the right service level, right, based on the entitlement, right, whether you're a premier customer or whether you're a production customer. So this is really where we identify you as a customer, the service level entitlement, and link the collectors that you've installed with against your account. Then you will install, you will go ahead and add your endpoints. So your vCenter servers, your NSX managers, right? So would basically configure Skyline to start collecting data from these endpoints. And then once you successfully add these endpoints, your collector is registered and it will start collecting information. For the first time, it collects the full topology, and then moving forward, it will start collecting event changes, and it will transmit that securely back to VMware. So that at a high level is the installation configuration process, really straightforward, less than 30 minutes to actually get it up and running. Yeah. So if we now look at the next slide here, how do you get access to this, right? Or before we go there, what is the support? How do we get support if you have any questions with the product itself? So we have two avenues. The first one being the Skyline Community. It is an open community, so anyone can join. And again, it's for both production and Premier Services customer, as long as you have a valid My VMware account. And it's really a great starting point for questions, issues, best practices, and knowledge just around anything related to Skyline, right? It is actively moderated by a bunch of technical folks out here, and of course, the product team and the engineering team. And we continue to make sure that all your questions are answered. And it's, again, a great place to distribute and broadcast information that we have about this product. The other way to get help is the Skyline community that we have for our Premier Services customers. As you guys probably know who have Premier Services, the added benefit of having Premier Services is that you get a dedicated support account team, and they will be able to assist you with any questions or comments that you have related to the product itself. And the next slide really talks about what is the call to action, right? How do you get access to this? There's two ways. One is you might have already received an email invitation to basically the super user, the My VMware account. And if that is the case, then that means you're already invited to be part of the Skyline customer group. So just follow the instructions there to sign up. And if you haven't received the email, which might happen, it might be a production support customer, or for some other reason, you might not have received an email. And in that case, we would highly encourage you guys to sign up for the Managed Access program up on this link. And once you sign up, we will make sure that there are no backend challenges with your account in terms of entitlement, and go ahead and send you an email so that it's a very smooth installation process for your organization. So that's really what I had in mind here. I think I covered most of the things, and since we have some time, I would love to take some questions. Nick, do you want to help me moderate some of the questions that might be out there?
Absolutely. We've had a few come in here, and I'm doing my best to answer them via, excuse me, the chat windows. One of the questions that came in was regarding getting Skyline enabled if an individual was unfamiliar who did the initial setup or configuration. So from a Skyline perspective, and this was detailed in the call to action, Skyline is available today by invitation only for our production support customers. It's available globally to our Premier Services customers. Mm-hmm. And if you're interested, make sure you sign up for our Managed Access program. at http vmware.com/go/skyline/signup. Again, that was called out in the call to action slide. There's been a few questions with regards to our GDPR status, and I will direct those customers to our FAQ that has been provided within the chat window. That is the best place to go with regards to questions that you may have with regards to privacy and security concerns. So I would direct you there for additional information. And then if you have information beyond what's available within our FAQ, please reach out to one of the three of us, or the Skyline community, or your VMware account team can all assist with helping answer additional questions related to the privacy and security of Skyline.
Yep. Yeah, so I think we are GDPR compliant. We did a lot of work earlier this year to make sure we comply with the policies that were outlined. But again, as Nick mentioned, more details can be found in the FAQ document around privacy and security. I see a few questions around how many vCenters can a single Skyline collector handle. Nick, do you want to take that? It can be as much as many as 20, right?
Yeah, so our current guidance with regards to collector per vCenter server and or NSX manager is 10 per collector. So for each Skyline collector, you could connect up to 10 vCenter servers and or NSX managers, or up to 5,000 virtual machines that are being managed by those individual management servers. So that is the first requirement. And then the second requirement is, or not requirement, but recommendation is based upon regions. So since the Skyline collectors is a very minimal virtual appliance, we continue to make improvements to it to make it very minimal to manage. If you have multiple vCenter servers that are spread apart a distance that would be considered multiple regions, we recommend a Skyline collector as close to the vCenter server and or NSX manager within those regions. We see no need to send vCenter server NSX manager product usage data over a wide area network. So just go ahead and install an additional Skyline collector in each of those regions, and that minimizes the product usage data having to go across the WAN. VMware aggregates all the data that comes from multiple Skyline collectors. So even if you had, for example, 5 Skyline collectors, you would still only receive one operational summary report. So we aggregate everything that comes into us from multiple collectors.
Awesome, Nick. Thanks so much. Another question that piqued my interest was the product looks kind of similar to VROps, where it also gives recommendations apart from the version control. So yeah, no, Suresh, I think the question is very valid. I think it is something that might provide the same value that VROps provides today. But our vision is to go over and above that, right? We are, there's some things that we will be announcing at VMworld, some really great product improvements. So look forward to that. There are going to be really some exciting announcements. But I think at a high level, Skyline, we've got support all the way from Pat. All the business units are in making Skyline successful. And we will make sure there is clear differentiation in the value that we offer. Today, Skyline is really focused about how can we help customers proactively remediate issues based on the wealth of information that we have. KB articles, best practices, DVDs, so on and so forth, right? So there's a ton of information that we have, and we really want to make sure that we can be ahead of the game and proactively look into your environment and give you recommendations before things happen. And VROps is more about real-time monitoring and real-time management of your environment. So we're never going to get there, and VROps will not do things that we are doing. So we're going to make sure that there is enough differentiation in terms of the value that we offer. Maybe another one last question, and then I think there were many questions out here. So we probably will get back to you guys with some of these questions and answers to these questions. Right, Nick?
Yes. Yeah, we have quite a few. We have right now 12 open questions, and obviously trying to get to all of them either via live or via text.
That's right. And then, yes, you can run a POC as well. There are no limitations as such to add multiple vCenters, so you can certainly do that. Again, POC, you can just download the Skyline software once you get access to it, and you can deploy a version of the Skyline collector in your lab environment and point it to your lab vCenter servers, so on and so forth. So that's very much possible. What else do we have here? There was one comment around why does the report shows product that customers don't have any use. Sample customer using only ESXi 6.5, but the report shows version 6.0 or ESX 5.5. Yeah, this is definitely something that we are looking to address. Today, we just do a check against the KB articles based on the configuration setting and the version setting, and there might be areas or some findings where that may not be accurate. So we will certainly look into this this issue and maybe even reach out to you to understand if you have some specific examples so we can remediate these discrepancies that might exist out there. Anything else, Nick? Is it a paid tool or will be paid? It is not a paid tool, right? It is a free. It is included as part of your support contract. The only requirement is that you need to be on either production support or Premier support in order to have Skyline. How can I tell which EA a Skyline adapter might be using if there are multiple tied to my VMware account? Eric, that's a great question. I don't think we have a very direct answer yet, but I can look into that. Today, you can, when you register Skyline, we basically look at your MyVMware account, and based on your MyVMware account, we look up all the entitlement accounts, and then we give you the highest level of support. So if one of your EAs is entitled for Premier services, you will end up getting Premier services. So if you want to segment your data based on EAs, I would love to have a conversation with you, Eric, because that's something that we're looking into from a roadmap perspective. So I will put my contact information in here. I guess mine, Nick's as well. If there are any questions, and feel free to reach out to us. And I will also make sure that we get back to you with the answers to the questions that you guys have in here. We are running up against time here. I want to be respectful of that. I think it was a great session. I really appreciated everyone's time in joining this webinar. Again, to summarize, we are very much committed to this product. We've got great executive support, and we're working across business units within VMware to make sure that we provide a single pane of glass in terms of proactive support, so that we can radically transform how you engage with our organization, how you engage with support, with our engineers, and we really want to make sure you're leveraging your investments in the most efficient way as possible. And again, if you're at VMworld, I would love to meet up with you guys. There's going to be a lot of exciting announcements that we're making there, so stay tuned for that. And thanks again for joining.